Dear colleagues, the topic of my research is smoking cessation counseling in colorectal cancer patients. So we know that smoking is an established colorectal cancer risk factor for colorectal cancer development, and meta-analysis of a lot of studies, almost 200 studies, show that there's about from 14 to 17% increased risk for colorectal cancer development in both former and current smokers. But also smoking is an established risk factor for colorectal cancer mortality, and the registered data shows quite a significant, about 11% increased risk for colorectal cancer mortality among cancer survivors. So we should keep that in mind when counseling and advising colorectal cancer patients during their follow-up visits. We also know that smoking cessation counseling is effective not only in respiratory cancers when the patient perceives that smoking may be directly associated with their lungs, for example, for lung cancer, but smoking cessation counseling can also be effective for non-respiratory cancer. It may directly affect their survival and quite significantly according to this systematic review data. So what we did is I represent a surgical unit when we specialized only on colorectal cancer treatment, and we did a questionnaire on patients who were admitted for surgery for colorectal cancer. Altogether, we questioned 55 patients, which were inpatients and they were awaiting surgery or underwent surgery at our department. And what we tried to analyze is their smoking history, their willingness to quit smoking, and also we tried to analyze whether the smoking cessation and current or former smoker was associated with any postoperative events. So these are the results. More than half of the patients in our study group were either former or current smokers. About a third of them were current smokers, and these 19 patients were later advised counseling to quit smoking before being admitted for the surgery during their outpatient phase. So these 19 patients were counseled, proposed to undergo counseling, but 7 of them refused, and among the 12 who received some counseling, 3 refused to quit smoking, and none of them actually tried to quit smoking. So counseling was quite effective in our experience. So most of the patients who actually received the counseling, they tried to quit. And among these 9 patients, the 2 patients who underwent surgery at our department after they tried to quit smoking, they experienced some pulmonary obstruction during the early postoperative period, and actually they required to smoke something before this pulmonary obstruction was managed. So we should keep that in mind when trying to counsel the patients who are actually heavy smokers. Most of the patients, they smoke more than 2 packs of cigarettes a day, so there's no light smokers. So we should keep in mind, so they may experience some risk, but maybe not significant, but some risk during the early phase. Also, we know that smoking cessation may be very, very effective in colorectal cancer management, and we don't put so much attention to this as it deserves. Because, for example, the adjuvant chemotherapy trials that show the benefit of adding oxaliplatin to the standard fluorouracil-based chemotherapy shows a risk reduction about 20 to 23%. But actually, the smoking cessation, according to our data, and this is a large data which has been accumulated today, leads to similar risk reduction. So both adding oxaliplatin and quitting smoking may be as important. I don't think that we should substitute one for another, but we should pay more attention to the measures which may be very, very effective for our patients. Unfortunately, not all of the patients are willing to quit smoking, so there is not much we can do. And about 40% of the patients really quit smoking after counseling, while the majority of them, they continue to smoke. It's too difficult for them to quit. So we should consider other treatment options, such as different methods of nicotine replacement therapy and different concepts of risk reduction, or maybe alternative smoking may be used for them as a bridge to quitting smoking eventually. And I believe that this is the thing that we discuss in our country today, is that the information about smoking and its impact on the survivorship and mortality on colorectal cancer patients should be added to the national guidelines. Just as I demonstrated before, if we're so keen on using more active chemotherapy for 20% risk reduction in mortality, why don't we want to achieve the same 20%? Why don't we pay so much attention to the smoking counseling, which really needs to be implemented in the nearest future and may bring the same benefit to our patients? So we should check the all international guidelines, they, for example, speak of the FDA authorized the use of electronic nicotine delivery systems just as a part of the risk reduction as a bridge to quitting smoking, which is also may be considered, but needs to be discussed in professional society. So the main message from my talk is it's very important to being healthy. And thank you for your attention.